Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, coming to you on day 4 of the Australian Open from what I'm now going to call our regular haunt, the Creator Lounge. Comfy seats, good lumbar support, good Wi-Fi, and crucially, it is indoors because it is bloody cold and wet tonight in Melbourne. And further evidence of Matt being sensible, he's the only one of us that has a waterproof jacket.
I do take my Wimbledon merch everywhere, as my friends and family will know.
You thought that through, didn't you?
Yeah. Very envious. I'm wearing shorts. I'm not appropriately dressed. Matches are still ongoing in various different forms. Jasmine Paolini is in a state of suspendu. The noise you can hear is bangers being played into the Kia Arena, trying to keep the crowd there while they wait for the resumption of Paolini against Freck, which has been called off, I think, for the second time due to rain.
And is now moving to the John Cain Arena to finish off under a roof.
Close the roofs.
Absolutely. Thank goodness for the roofs.
It's what we always say, thank goodness for the roofs. And there's still a whole Priscilla Hon to come on the Rod Laver Arena.
She's just walked out onto the Rod Laver Arena.
Priscilla Hon and Iva Jovic. And frankly, if we were truly diligent tennis podcasters, we'd be waiting for the result of that match because, spoiler alert for part 3, sensation of the day is a bit of a tough scene today. There's a lot on the line for Priscilla Hon here. But look, we'll give you out-of-date score updates as the match progresses. It's on the big screen in front of us.
How many games does she need to win in order to...
Oh, she needs to win this to... Well, again, spoiler alert for part 3, we've got someone that came as close to winning without winning as you can get.
That was a long time ago, but I just about remember it, yeah.
So we've got someone that we can hand it to in extremis.
Which I think is very sensational.
It's very sensational. It is. But let's face it, if Priscilla Hon wins, she's got it.
Agreed.
Yeah. No pressure, Priscilla. Right, let's take ourselves back to a time when the sun was shining, the balls were popping. It was actually a beautiful day until this happened, wasn't it? It was, sort of 25 degrees, sunny, bit of breeze, absolutely lovely. Perfect conditions for Carlos Alcaraz. And it turns out, Yannick Hanfmann for a set and a bit.
He loved it.
I mean, the set of his life in the first against Alcaraz, playing pretty well.
Yeah, in the words of Alcaraz afterwards, he was hitting bombs at me, and I think that is accurate. I think probably it simplifies the approach for a guy like Hanfmann, who's a big strapping guy who's got power. You've just got to go for everything, really, and see if you can inflict damage and maybe just discomfort Alcaraz a bit, and I think he did. And I don't think Alcaraz is at his convincing best yet. I think he's searching. I think he's playing fine. And look, it was straight sets. There were lots of good things. I think his base level is decent, but he doesn't have that authority at the moment that he had in New York. That's what sets it apart. In fact, I've never seen that authority here in Australia to this point. I mean, look, I've never seen the New York level anywhere, so it's a high bar you're measuring him against, and he may just be working his way into the tournament. And it was fine, like I say, there was a lot of good stuff in there, but Hanfmann did make him a little uncomfortable out there.
Yeah, I thought Hanfmann was brilliant. I've seen him play well against Djokovic before, really trying to impose his big game. He's a tall guy, he's a strapping guy, and he's really got some firepower, and he used it. He was targeting the Alcaraz forehand, and I think Alcaraz was maybe getting involved in maybe a few too many of those forehand-to-forehand exchanges early on, but Hanfmann was executing his game plan brilliantly. And what I liked about Alcaraz is that he did respond and step up when he needed to, not to let it drag into a potential fourth set or anything like that. So, yeah, it was a really good match. This was the longest 3-set match that Alcaraz has ever played at a Grand Slam. That tells you that, yes, okay, it was straight sets, but he was pushed today. He was made to work hard, and really wanted to give Hanfmann credit there, because we say so often, Alcaraz and Sinner are so far ahead of everyone else that sometimes these matches can just sort of drift on and go by, and we don't really have a huge reason to necessarily really get your teeth into it. But I was gripped in this first set because Hanfmann was playing that well, and full credit to him.
Alcaraz was asked in his first question in the press conference to assess his own performance today, and he said, well, when I left the court, I didn't think I'd played particularly well, but then my team told me I played really well, so I'm going to believe them. And I just... It's such a weird thing with Alcaraz press conferences at the moment, with Alcaraz anything at the moment, because my overall impression was that he was pretty subdued in press today. But
yeah, I mean, I do think today the flatness in the press was most likely due to the train crash that there's been in Spain, and he was asked a lot about that in the Spanish portion of the press conference. And
so he would have anticipated that coming.
I expect so. I think he wrote on the camera tribute as well. I mean, there's 3 days of national mourning in Spain at the moment. I think 40 people have died, and I suspect he's obviously I suspect down about that, and also aware that questions would be coming. And I think it's one of the reminders, isn't it? The bubble of a Grand Slam, and yet the outside world can get in, and I'm sure he would have been feeling that today.
Yeah, that's a very important point. He has Mute next.
Does he?
Is that going to be horrible for Mute?
So it's a tricky one to really get a sense of, because you don't really know what sort of state Mute is going to turn up in. I mean, he's not looked fully fit at times in this tournament. He went a set down today against Michael Zheng, but then he came back and he played some good stuff, and he kind of wore his opponent down in the end. An opponent who's just not used to this kind of tennis really at this stage. He plays college tennis, really is what he plays most of the time, Zheng.
He's going to be in David's fantasy team before you know it.
But Mute... what he is doing is he's continually stepping up in the last year and a bit now. This isn't just this comedy character that he always used to be. He's now a proper player. Still, it's a very different thing playing against Alcaraz, isn't it? And I'm interested to see how he gets on a big stage against him. I assume they'll put that on a Laver Arena. If not, they'd put it on the second court. Either one, big stage. Crowds getting introduced to Mute for the very first time. In theory, I think he's going to love that, but then I still have that match against Djokovic in my mind, when he just was so flat and not really there, and I think too respectful. But in this, if Alcaraz comes out playing well, he may just crush him. He may just be able to physically impose himself in that way with his game as well. But equally, he might make it fun and might make it a little... You can end up getting Alcaraz into one of those matches where you're seeing who's got the better trick shots, like Damir Jumher does whenever he plays against him.
I worry from a Mute perspective that he needs to feel like he's the trick shot guy on the court and not the number 2 trick shot guy. Do you remember when Barami and Leconte used to play on the Champions Tour? And it just didn't work.
I don't think that'll stop Mute trying to be number 1 in that particular type of manner. But it'll be interesting. Because I think he's going to have to do that. I don't think his best game is unsettling opponents, with whether it's through attitude or more specifically with a variety of game that you don't see every day. And I think if they've got any sense, his team, they'll be letting him know that Alcaraz sometimes gets embroiled in these matches where you get a bit self-indulgent and you end up having too much fun, and that can take his mind off the ball.
Daniil Medvedev on the John Cain Arena today had a bit of a scenic route against definitively agricultural Quentin Halys. How much trouble was he in, David?
I thought he was in quite a bit, actually. When you look at the scoreline on paper, it's 6-7 and then 3 straight sets. But it was actually a different feel for the first hour and a half to that, because Halys actually played a very similar match to what we saw from Hanfmann. Every time the ball was there to be hit, he absolutely clubbed it, and he was really going after balls, I think, really trying to finish rallies. If he had a ball there to hit, he wasn't trying to wear Medvedev down. He was trying to finish rallies, and he was doing it with a lot of success. He had several set point chances in that first set. He was by far the better player in a set. He only just about won 7-6, and he had to save a set point in the tiebreak as well. But Medvedev had that on his own serve. He had I think it was 7-6 or something like that, and serving, and he lost the next 3 points. It was, and when he sat down, I did think, this is interesting, because this is exactly what happens when Medvedev has played against Benjamin Bonsi in the last, however long it seems to be, whenever he plays him. And sure enough, they came out in the second set, and Medvedev was broken again. And so he's a breakdown. At one point, he was 7-6, 2-1, and 40-love down. And he broke from there. And that was the turning point of the whole match. Halys had, I think, a little bit of a concentration letdown in that 40-love game, because he really should have found a way to get... He was on top. He was in total charge. Medvedev was complaining to Thomas Johansson, who was saying, send your rackets off to get them strung a bit tighter then, if because the ball was going all over the place at that point, trampolining off the strings, long, all sorts of things. But it seemed to get him back in the room, Medvedev, and then he imposed himself. But the game that I'd spoken to Johansson about, of getting to the net, he was doing it, but he was fluffing volleys left, right and centre. But he got himself back. The difference is he got himself back on kilter. There were no dramas in the end. He won the next 3 sets, and I think that has to be viewed as real progress.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's impossible to say, but I just feel like 2025 Medvedev, certainly through to the US Open, finds a way to lose this match rather than finding a way to win it. He didn't have his best game, and last year that was leading into melting down and losing the plot, quite frankly, in a lot of matches. And today it went the other way. He as David said, that critical game where he got the break back, he ended up hitting a brilliant backhand passing shot in that game to clinch the break back. Fantastic moment. And from there he was locked in. And it suddenly felt like old Medvedev, in terms of, you just knew that Halys was going to have to keep up a good level for a long time in order to beat him. And that was always one of the challenges of playing Medvedev, and that disappeared a bit last year. He lost his edge in a lot of these matches, but he had it today. It wasn't like his top level, as David said. He is still searching for that, and in fact, in his on-court interview afterwards, he said, "I was playing better in Brisbane." He said he was preferring the speed of the courts there. He felt like he's still missing something on his shots here compared to Brisbane. He's less able, I think, to do the damage that he wants to do. But he also said that he's had that feeling before, and you can build into a tournament and find it through a tournament. So, frankly, for Medvedev, I know that we've all just put him through to the quarterfinals or semi-finals or final, but actually, for him, he needs to get used to navigating these early stages of Grand Slams again. I know he's so experienced at doing that, but not recently. So anything that he's capable of doing in these first few rounds is a positive for him, and he's got another tricky one actually in the third round, hasn't he, against Marozsan?
Yeah, who's playing well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's now Rinderknecht and Majacek. He's beaten in straight sets today, and it's interesting. I mean, he's a flat ball hitter, very powerful and good touch as well. Although I did look up their head-to-head, he hasn't actually won a set against Medvedev so far. So, and that's five sets they've played against one another. So Medvedev may well lean on that.
Alexander Zverev set up another third-round meeting with the last Brit standing, Cameron Norrie, today. Zverev, we've just watched over on the John Cain Arena, get the better of Alexander Muller. 6-3, 4-6, 6-3, 6-4, and Cameron Norrie came through Emilio Nava in 4 sets. He had to come back and play, 3 or 4 points after a rain delay in the 4th set tiebreak.
Yes, it was a very poorly timed rain delay all around the grounds, obviously, but, particularly for Cameron Norrie in that fourth set tiebreak, trying to close it out. He'd just got the mini break, and he was 4-3 up, came back, and he was serving, and actually very impressively hit two big serves to get himself to 2 match points. Laver saved the first 2, and then Norrie won the final one when Laver made an error. And honestly, the scenes out there on court 7, I think it was, which is very near the bar. There's a sort of walkway where people gather. I mean, it was like a football match. It was just chants were going back and forth between one side of the court and the other. There were a couple of Laver guys, but there was about 100 Norrie guys.
But that little corner of the grounds is where the wild stuff happens.
It is,
I think.
Yeah. And, even more so because everyone had had a chance to go and get a drink during this rain delay. It was heightened.
It was you've spent 3 hours watching a Cameron Norrie match. Have a break, go and get a beer. We'll all come back in half an hour.
And Anki Ottavon came onto the court at the end to do the interview with Cameron Norrie for TNT, which was basically just a sing-along with the crowd. Were you
singing along, Matt?
I was not singing. I was observing. I was enjoying. No, it was great. And honestly, this was a really good match, like really high level, and just classic Cameron Norrie. Like, he loves those sorts of outside courts, getting his teeth into a match, real intensity to it. And actually the crowd, unfortunately, during the rain delay, obviously thinned massively. It was packed out there for the 3 hours that preceded it. People loving it. And yeah, just a really fun time, actually. And yeah, Norrie obviously now plays Zverev, as you say. And
unfortunately for Norrie, that match against Zverev won't be in conditions anything like that.
Yeah.
Will they? They'll be that match will be probably on one of the main 2 courts, maybe on John Cain, and that all plays into Zverev's hands, I think. John Cain, maybe he could get a bit of rowdy British support. Cam Norrie, but Zverev's just had an outing on John Cain this evening, and he dropped the second set, but Muller's a good player, and Zverev played well to beat him.
Yeah, I think he is in good form, Zverev. After that terrible first set he played against Diallo, he's now played 5 out of the next 6 sets very well. And I mean, the one that he lost against Muller was really Muller playing out of his skin. I mean, he is a heck of a ball striker, but it took him a set and 3-love down before I think he got the rust out of his system after going 5 sets with Alexei Popyrin the other night. And then he just got his teeth into it. He started to play better from the baseline. He actually won 5 games in a row in that second set, Muller, and that made it interesting, really. And it was a bit of a test to see, what does Zverev do now? Because he's had that situation where he's bullying an opponent who stood up to him like that, levelled up at 1 set all. But Zverev didn't take any backward steps. He actually was very assertive. He was playing big man's tennis out there. Sometimes that's the criticism I've certainly had from him, that he shrinks in those situations at times. Well, he wasn't today. I mean, the expected quarter-final is him and Medvedev on paper from here. He's playing better than Medvedev so far over the course of these 2 matches. Typically, when Medvedev plays him, he kind of scrambles him. So obviously a fair way to go there. There's Norrie still to get through for Zverev, who had a very tough match against him 2 or 3 years ago here. Potentially, it's either going to be Rublev or Cerundolo after that, and both of those players can be tough as well. But I think Zverev's playing well.
Yeah, Cerundolo was great today, wasn't he? Absolutely crushed Damir Dzumhur. He plays Rublev next. But yeah, Zverev does seem to... I mean, he does peak at the right times.
Yes, I mean, David watched that more closely than I did, but I was struck by the same thing. Like hitting through the ball in a way that you don't always see, and not letting the match come to him, but taking it on. And if he's doing all of those things, Zverev, and if he gets his serve, fully firing, like he's, that's the sort of tennis that people look at and think that could win a Grand Slam, but he just so rarely brings it in the latter stages of the Grand Slams. But yeah, he's right where he wants to be right now. And Medvedev, yeah, he's got to build. It's up to him to find the form, and Lerner Tien is still lurking in his section as well. Like, both of them have got players who've beaten them before and been threats to them in their sections.
It's quite delicious, actually, that, isn't it?
And actually, like, that's the theme of this tournament so far. So few upsets. We have barely had any, you know, like, we've got so many of the top seeds still here, like in both the women's and the men's, and therefore what you want is for the big matchups to happen. You don't really want to sort of lose a couple in the next couple of rounds, because otherwise you haven't really got the fun of the early upsets. But we want the payoff now of the big matches, and the matches that we know are intriguing, and Medvedev Tien is jumping out to me. Ever since the draw was made, that was possible, and I thought, right, I want to see it, and Tien's looking really good as well.
4 sets for him today against Alexander Shevchenko, but in the 3 sets that he won, he only lost 3 games.
Yeah, and I must say the latter half of this match was massively compromised, because Shevchenko could barely move.
There's been quite a lot of that.
To be quite honest, there has been a lot of that. See previous discussions about scheduling and the calendar and 5 sets. You know, it's all wrapped up in that, and the lack of the long off season. But I did like what I saw from Tien in the bits where it was more of a match. I think he probably should have won the second set. He sort of lost his way a little bit there, but got over it well.
He's got Borges next, who ended the dreams of a potential sensation of the day. More on that later. So we've got a Nuno Borges and a Fabian Marozsan standing in the way of Medvedev Tien in the 4th round. Alex de Minaur weathered a little bit of a storm tonight against Hamad Medvedev. It certainly felt like a storm when he lost the first set on the tie-break, but I was a bit alarmed, David, at how quickly and violently Medvedev faded in this match. He seemed to go reverse 1-point slam. He seemed to go from winning that first set to just not being a threat at all in the space of a few games.
Yeah, and I think that is the story of his career so far as a pro, because he burst on the scene winning those next-gen finals. He beat Artificial on the way there. He really looked the business, and it has taken time for him to even get to where he is right now. I remember speaking to him for Tennis Podcast Meets at Roland-Garros last year, and he was accepting that. He said, I am not where I thought I would be right now. I thought I'd be further along than this. And he was building, he was trying to work it all out. And actually, the day after I spoke to him, he retired during a match due to injury. There's been a lot of that. He's often struggled in conditions if it's hot. He's a big guy. He's carrying a lot of sort of muscle around with him. You know, I don't think it's the easiest thing in the world sometimes. I think he's had injuries, but he's explosive. He's like a boxer with a punch. He's one of those sort of guys, a sort of knockout artist type player. And that's what he brought to Rod Laver Arena, and I think he got the locals worried, because if there's one thing de Minaur doesn't have, it's that. He doesn't have... He's kind of absolutely maxing out his game, and he has put some power and assertiveness into it, but if you connect, you can bully him still, and that's what Medvedev did. He also marries that with a very nice drop shot, which the difference is, though, he massively overplays it, and he particularly overplays it when he's starting to bail out and get tired and get ground down. And I think some of the ones he threw in the latter 3 sets of that match were just ridiculous. I mean, they're not going to come off, and there were proper bailouts, and de Minaur showed what a pro he is, what a great mover he is, and eventually he just outlasted him.
Yeah, it felt like one of those where, okay, he lost the first set, de Minaur, but it had gone 7-6, and he's thinking, I can do that 5 more times. Can you? And he emphatically couldn't. And
he couldn't do that 1 more time.
Right. Yeah, I was impressed by how composed de Minaur stayed there, because there was a slightly eerie feeling on Rod Laver when he just wasn't getting into any of Medvedevic's service games. They didn't have any spark to go off, because he was just rolling through them, Medvedevic, in that first set. But I felt like, from a de Minaur perspective, he always had that under control, really, I think, given the 5-set format.
looking like it's going to be Francis Tiafoe for de Minaur in round 3, although when I wrote that into the agenda, Tiafoe is 2 sets to Laver, and it looks like he's about to go 2 sets to 1 with Francisco Comesaña. So we'll keep you posted. Still likely to be Tiafoe. He's got a good head-to-head against Tiafoe de Minaur. It sort of sounds tricky on paper, but I think I would really back de Minaur there, personally. I do think a potential worry for him, though, is Alexander Bublik, who would be his 4th round opponent. Another comfortable, muss and fuss-free straight sets victory for Bublik, David.
Do you know, both of those 2 potential opponents are matches I'd like to see on Rod Laver Arena against de Minaur. I think if you're going to see the best of Tiafoe, if you're going to see the best of Bublik, it's going to be in front of a big crowd. But you're right. I mean, this wasn't a big crowd. This was him against Martin Fucsovics, not a big name, somebody he's expected to beat, who, when Bublik was asked about him in the little gathering I attended a few nights ago, was very respectful about Fucsovics as somebody who's played for years and years, but he was clearly unworried by him, in as much as if there's a business-likeness to him as far as Bublik's ever going to go. He's never going to admit to that, but he knows how to turn up now most of the time, and when he does, he's got the beating of people like that, and I think in the past he might have lost to them because he didn't turn up. So he's an interesting little sort of wild card that's just been thrown into the Australian Open in a way.
Yeah, big time. It's Echeverry next for Bublik. You'd expect him to come through that on the basis of form.
I would, yeah.
Tommy Paul has set up a meeting with Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Fun 3rd round meeting, this one. And Alejandro Davidovich Fokina delivered value for money today, I think, beating Riley Opelka in 5 sets, during the course of which he cursed USA douchebags.
Okay. What set that off, I wonder?
There were chants of USA, USA.
Okay.
Yes. And he said it in Spanish.
Yeah.
Still.
I did see the umpire come out of his chair and go up to some spectators in the front row and have a word, and then came back to his chair. This was on the request of Davidovich Fokina, I think, and then the umpire said over the microphone, "Please be fair to both players."
Yeah,
to the crowd.
There was a lot of that chest beaty USA stuff, which, you know, I'm sure is harmless, but isn't for everyone. I can vouch for that. Okay, that's fun though, isn't it? Paul against Davidovich Fokina.
Very fun.
I feel like it's very Matt Roberts coded.
Repeat of a year ago,
yeah,
when
it wasn't
Davidovich Fokina was out on his last legs. He just played 2 5-setters, hadn't he? And he lost 1-1-1.
Yeah, but like in theory, if they're both fit, which I think they are, shot makers, good movers, great athletes, both a little bit flaky as well at times. Like there'll be chances coming and going. I think that'll be a really good watch.
Yeah, same. Okay, that's it for part 1. Join us in part 2 when we'll talk about the women's draw and the matches that we've seen today. But first, of course, an important word from our sponsors of this episode and every episode of the tennis podcast throughout the Australian Open. It is, of course, Steve Furgal's International Tennis Tours, the premium hospitality and experience provider. And, of course, Steve Furgal's International Tennis Tours is also an official provider of ticket and travel packages for David Roland-Garros 2026. Steve Furgal's offer tennis fans a trusted way to experience one of the sport's most iconic tournaments in Paris, and tennis podcast listeners can save 10% on those Roland-Garros packages, featuring official tickets, access to premium hospitality options, if that's the way that you want to do it. There's so many different ways to do a Grand Slam, and Steve Furgal's can cater to any one of those, and they can do it in a secure and official way and with 10% off. So if you fancy a trip to Paris in the springtime, who wouldn't? Go to tours4tennis.com/podcast. That is tours, the number 4, tennis.com/podcast, and save 10% with the code PARIS10. Hi everyone, this is Catherine from the Tennis Podcast. You seem to be listening to the Tennis Podcast, and that is why we want to hear from you. The Athletic are asking you to fill out a quick survey about you and your podcast habits by going to theathletic.com/survey26. Now, 3 lucky entries will win £100 or dollars worth of Amazon vouchers. So whether you're a long-time listener or a new one, we want your feedback to help us make the show that you want to hear. Go to theathletic.com/survey26. That's theathletic.com/survey26. The link is also in our show notes. Thank you. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast, where Jasmine Paolini has resumed with Magdalena Frech on an entirely different court. She's over on the John Cain Arena. Priscilla Hon doesn't seem much bothered about winning sensation of the day. She is down 4-1 to Iva Jovic. More as we have it. Should we talk about Aryna Sabalenka? Or maybe there's not much to say about Aryna Sabalenka. Is this a kind of situation like we had with Yannick Sinner yesterday? Like,
similar, yeah.
Sabalenka was Sabalenka. She's so good that we don't learn much about her from these kind of matches. All due respect to her opponent today, it was, they were playing different sports.
There are a lot of parallels, I think, to draw between Sabalenka and Sinner generally over the last couple of years. They don't lose matches here in Australia, do they? And not very often. And they actually look more of a threat here than anywhere, and they're both great everywhere. But yeah, she is just taking care of business and steps up, deals out her game, and it feels so reliable. You know, you might beat her, but you absolutely have to beat her. And in these early rounds, yeah, she doesn't look in trouble at all.
It's Anastasia Potapova for her next, the world number 54 from Russia. A lot of people might have expecting that to be Emma Raducanu. Certainly that was the seeded third round matchup that we circled when the draw came out. Well, I'm afraid no chance of that. Potapova beat Raducanu today 7-6, 6-2 in a... Look, I can't dress this up. I commentated this match. It was pretty horrible. Like, I don't think Sabalenka will be quaking in her boots about Potapova on the basis of this match, quite frankly, because Emma Raducanu was a shadow of herself. Honestly, it was a really dispiriting performance. It was poor quality in the first set, and then by midway through the second set, I think Raducanu had pretty much given up on things. And I went to her press conference afterwards, and she was, very, very dejected, exactly as I was expecting. And I was very interested in what she might say about her setup, about her coaching situation, because there's clearly unsettlement there. She's got Francisco Roig. Obviously, she's been working with him for about 7 months now, which for Emma Raducanu, in the approach that we know she has to coaches, is a fairly long stint. And when I was in Perth and Team GB were there, I was hearing pretty positive things about the way their partnership was going. I observed them in the player lounge quite a few times, and he seems to be sort of gelling with the team and with Tim Henman really well, and it seemed like a decent vibe to me. But there was just that one moment in the match that Raducanu played against Maria Sakkari where Roig had been telling her that there was the Roig-Henman double act, wasn't there, during that match, the coaching double act, where they were sort of inputting lots of information. Tim was mostly vibe-based. Roig was telling her to put shape on the ball. And there was one point at the start of the second set where she seemed to say, I don't want to hear anything more about putting shape on the ball. Just pipe down and let me do my thing. And she started just swinging and hitting freely, and she played a great set. Now, she ended up losing that match. She faded physically in the third set. But it made me think, well, that's not a good sign for whatever you're working on with your coach, that you've played your best tennis when you've explicitly ignored what he's had to tell you. But then the vibe seemed to be good. Everybody's sort of saying, things are positive from the camp. But then then you watch this performance, Matt, and you see the Raducanu forehand, which she told us about before the tournament, what she's been trying to do and not to do with that forehand. And it was a catastrophe today. Like, whatever they've been trying to do, it's so patently not the right thing to do. Lengthening that swing, making it loopier. Every expert that I've spoken to says in 2026, you don't lengthen swings. You shorten swings if you possibly can. And, I mean, she looked like she didn't have a forehand today. It was disastrous. It's rare you see such a tangible change in a player as a result of working with a particular coach, and for it to be so catastrophic. Like, I don't think there's any way to dress it up, and I think Emma Raducanu sees it that way too, on the basis of what she said in the press conference afterwards.
Yeah, what you sometimes see is players using a different technique as a kind of stopgap measure en route to something better that they're working on, and there's a plan and there's a recognition that, okay, I'm going to have to take a step back now in order to take some steps forward. That is pretty common. But that's not what this is. This is, okay, I know that their preparation over the off-season has been extremely cut back and hampered by the fact that she wasn't able to hit for quite a long time, all of that, and she spoke well about that and provided important context and perspective of why it's not a disaster. But what it does strike me as is extremely careless to have allowed this to happen to the forehand, which has never been her best shot, but is now noticeably worse than what it was. And to come into a Grand Slam tournament with that kind of preparation just doesn't feel right. Plus the way she's talking about her identity as a player and saying that she wants to get back to hitting the ball big and taking it on, and rather than playing with variety. Now, I happen to think that she shouldn't be abandoning the variety altogether. I think she's maybe playing with the wrong type of variety. She's mostly playing with shape, and different pace on the ball. I think she could really use her slice more and use that kind of variety and mix the game up in other ways. I don't think Emma Raducanu should abandon variety, because quite frankly I think she's going to realise that there are players who hit the ball an awful lot harder than her, even if she's going for it more, and that is not going to have the success that it had a few years ago at the US Open, when she played the best tennis she's ever played, and in those conditions it just really worked. She was taking the ball early. I just don't think she's going to be able to necessarily do that again. So I think she does need to keep the variety in her game, not abandon it completely. But clearly there's a bit of a crisis of identity of what she is as a tennis player, and seems to be some disagreement with the coach there. It's not sounding good. I'm not talking about personal relationships. I've got absolutely no reason to feel like a personal relationship's broken down, but they don't seem to be on the same page necessarily, and that's a bit of a worry, I would have thought. Honestly,
I would be shocked if we don't get an announcement about Francisco Roig soon. And on the basis of what I've seen and heard, I'm kind of hoping for that. It's clearly not right for the kind of tennis player that Emma Raducanu wants to be. And tennis is about expressing. It's such a human sport. I think it's about expressing your identity on the court, and I think that's why one of the reasons why there's so much struggle for players that have success so young before they know what their identity is as a person. I mean, I think what it takes to be a professional tennis player kind of prevents you from figuring out who you are as a person. But that's a whole other thing. But she talked about wanting to get back to the way she used to play, and basically hating the way she's been playing tennis recently. And it's very tangibly the input of Francisco Roig. I think, who wants her to play kind of a more clay court game, and like it makes sense that would be the kind of tennis that he wants to see, but it's clearly not right for Emma Raducanu, and it's just a bit bizarre to me that this has been one of her longer coaching relationships. She's given this one more time than some of the others. It was dispiriting today, and I hope to see her in a better place in all regards soon. And I would watch this space for, well, you might have to watch very hard. I'm sure you'll hear about it everywhere, but I would expect an announcement from that camp. Winner of that round 3 match, incidentally, between Sabalenka and Potapova, plays the winner of Mboko against Towson.
Oh, hello. When's that on?
Well, 2 days from now, when Matt's parents are here.
Yes. They are anxious about what they might see.
What tickets they got?
Day session, second court. Lovely, lovely pair of tickets. They'll have a great time.
But
don't feel sorry for them.
Matt's dad thinks he might have a Cameron Norrie curse.
He did say, not come halfway around the world to see Cameron Norrie.
Okay.
But yeah, they might see Mboko Towson, which would be incredible.
It would, yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think Sabalenka would rather wins that?
That's a good question, because I don't recall her playing Mboko. Maybe they have, but I don't remember that match. And the unknown of Mboko and the potential of Mboko has the potential to make her a little bit anxious. I don't think Sabalenka goes into any match feeling anxious initially because she just expects to dominate. But I think in terms of when you get out there and see somebody move in the way Mboko can, and counter-attacking with her backhand in particular, and being forceful with the forehand, that is a match I would love to see. At the same time, she has a history against Towson, and it's not all good. You know, the Towson has got to her in the past with her own power. I think she'd probably prefer Towson, though, because she'd probably prefer to just stand and duke it out.
Interesting. I was going to say I think she'd prefer Mboko.
Really? Interesting. Why is that? Because of the power issue?
Yeah, I do think Towson is one of the few whose power does worry her a bit. I think she'd beat both of them, to be quite honest. I don't actually think she'd be that bothered. But just thinking about the matchup...
Come on, hype it up, Matt.
Just thinking about the matchup...
Towson's a bit more Anisimova-y.
Yeah, and a bit more keys last
Yeah.
year in the final. Because she's not as good as those players. I don't know, I just think Mboko's such a work in progress still, and... There's more weaknesses maybe that I think Sabalenka could exploit, but yeah, it's a very good third round match, that one.
Who do you think she will play against? Who do you think will win that?
I've not seen Towson this tournament, I'll be honest. I don't actually have any sense of what form she's in whatsoever.
7-5 in the third against Kudermetova today. It's a real marathon.
Right.
Matt,
I'll go Mboko.
The Giacomo fun has ended. And
Didn't watch a ball.
Wasn't that fun today?
Didn't watch a ball.
I turned that on and they were shaking hands.
I know, it was
6-1,
such a
6-2
disappointment.
or something like that.
Before I'd even really registered that it was happening, it was over.
Yeah, I saw one screenshot for this match and Giacomo was bent double over the hoardings at the side.
Yeah.
It didn't look fun. So well played, Yulia Putintseva. She now plays Zeynep Sonmez, who backed up her round 1 win. She's through to round 3 for the first time. It's her second third round at a slam. So she'd already become the first Turkish player to reach round 3 of a slam, but she's done it again, and that's
the
brilliant.
Scenes, Catherine. I turned it on for the scenes at the end, and honestly, it makes you just feel good to see the number of fans, the number of flags, the outpouring of emotion, and how much it means to her too. You know, this is a great news story for the sport, really, in the early stages of a Grand Slam.
Yeah, I don't think Yulia Putintseva is going to enjoy those scenes
that
much.
Get a bit tasty, couldn't it? I think.
I hope so.
You know, her against the fans. It could be fun, that.
Yes, how do you say Vamos a la playa in Turkish?
Coco Gauff today, 2-2 against Olga Danilovic. Matt, you said she was awesome.
She was, yes. I don't know whether it's a new segment, but we talked yesterday about most convincing player and gave that to Ben Shelton, and I'd probably have a tie with this one today between Gauff and Andreeva. I thought both of them were brilliant, and Gauff against Danilovic just gave her nothing. She was miserly, Coco Gauff, like just no errors, just said to Olga Danilovic, come on then, try and hit through me and my movement, and also I'm going to move you around. It was just a complete performance from Gauff. Like we so often, I think naturally we focus a lot on the Coco Gauff serve, but I was thinking today about the Coco Gauff return, and like, yes, you can get into the Coco Gauff service games often, but you're also very often on the back foot on your own serve, and she's just applying pressure constantly, and I think it must just be such a nightmare to play. And these are her favourite conditions, aren't they? Day sessions, sun beating down. Yeah, I thought she was excellent today.
Hayley Baptiste next for Coco Gauff. Elina Svitolina was very comfortable today. She set up a meeting with Diana Schneider in the third round, which will be awkward because Schneider, of course, a Russian player, played in the Gazprom event at the end of last year. We'll tell you more about how Schneider booked her place in round 3 in part 3 of today's show. Mirra Andreeva, love and 4 for her against Maria Sakkari, continuing to look like she's playing tennis on a slightly different plane to everybody else. And of course, winning this first set 6-love makes it back-to-back 6-love sets, because that's how she ended the match against Donna Vekic. And I feel like there were 2 wins in this for Mirra Andreeva, Matt. There was the fact that she sort of played brilliantly, like she's obviously in fantastic form and feeling confident, but also the fact that she did have a period of peril in the second set when the crowd really got on her back. The enormous Greek community here in Melbourne. Sakkari was having a terrible time. She was in peak underdog mode, and Andreeva gave the Greek fans something to get their teeth into, and they ran with it, and they were really going for it. And Andreeva was in an extremely miniature version of the situation she was in Paris with Lois Poisson. Obviously, nothing quite like that. Maybe nothing will ever be quite like that again. And I asked her, Andreeva, about this in the press conference afterwards, like, did you specifically make a concerted effort to deal with it differently today, to learn from moments like that from last year? And it was a resounding yes. She talked about techniques. I didn't get a chance to ask her specific techniques, maybe in a future press conference, but like, I think coming through a situation like that and proving that she's learned from what she went through in Paris last year is sort of just as big a win as how well she's played.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Look, it was definitely not at all like Paris because she was playing well. She was playing really well today, so in control of her game. She was also playing someone who I think fed into her game style. You know, Sakkari likes to put pace on the ball, and Andreeva can just manoeuvre that around. My lasting image of that first set will be Andreeva standing still, basically, in the middle of the court and just constructing points and moving Maria Sakkari all over the place. She just had the ball on a string. So game style wise, whereas Poisson was always messing Andreeva up and giving her no pace and giving her a moon ball and suddenly giving her loads of pace, it was just a nightmare. And the crowd was nowhere near as bad as Roland-Garros. But what I thought was interesting is that 6-love is such an interesting scoreline. Like, we've heard Taylor Fritz talk about this. Sometimes winning a set 6-love can actually work to your disadvantage because it does get the crowd more on side with the person who's lost it. It does maybe let the person who's lost it swing away a little bit, and it
especially if that person is Maria Sakkari.
Right, who loves being down in the score. She suddenly starts playing better, and she did. So situationally, Andreeva did have quite a lot to deal with here in terms of her temperament, because Sakkari did start playing better, the crowd did start getting much more on her side and against Andreeva. So there was a lot going on, and she dealt with it all brilliantly. There was not a moment where I thought she was going to lose her way. She was doing little things like, after winning the first point of a game, saying, come on, just like putting it out there that she was present and in that game and ready to win it, just applying little bits of pressure that way. I thought it was a very mature performance, very controlled. Obviously she hit her backhand like a dream. The forehand's got a little bit more punch on it, I think. Increasingly she's serving a lot bigger than she was this time last year.
That serve.
Like, it's all coming together for Andreeva. This was a great performance, and she said, didn't she, in the press conference, that she knew in the warm-up today. She was like, I knew I was playing well.
So good in the warm-up, and I think she meant not just
yes,
warm-up on court,
earlier in the day.
Earlier in the day, she was like, I've never played that well in a warm-up. Yeah,
which I love that.
She's a gift. She's got Elena Gabriela Rusa next, who again spoiled some sensation hopes. Karolina Muchova, bit of a thriller against Alicia Parks, 6-4 in the third. This was suspendu at 4-2 deuce in the third set. There was a hindrance drama for Muchova. There
was. I went out for the deciding set of this one on a very cold and very windy 1573 arena, and look, my expectations of Parks in those conditions are low. Right? Like, I think of her as someone much preferring indoor conditions where everything's controlled and she can hit the ball flat and hard. And actually, I thought she had started in this match playing really well and kept on playing really well. It was a good quality match, this one. But yes, Muchova got an early break in that third set, and then serving at 2-1, Muchova hit what she thought was a winner mid-rally and celebrated it mid-rally, only for Parks to get it back. Muchova did a whole come on mid-rally. And the umpire, fair play, called it straight away and called it correctly. It was a very clear hindrance, and Muchova knew it. Like, she didn't object at all. She realised what she'd done in the moment, but it did add some real drama, because suddenly it's like, well, you've got to come through this game now, because if you end up losing the game because you've celebrated mid-rally, that could be a real momentum swinger, how these things work. And embarrassing. But honestly, like, as good as Parks was, she hit so many balls in the net. Like, she no margin for error, and it's a flat hit, and against the Muchova slice, which stays so low, she didn't seem to be compensating for that quite enough. I think I don't want to be harsh on Parks, because I think she's really played well this tournament, dealing with Ayala, pushing Muchova. I think this has actually been a big step forward for her, because her results have not really matched up with that sort of talent level that I think she does possess. But she was good today, but Muchova was better, and great still to have Muchova in the tournament and looking as sharp as she is.
Jasmine Paolini is at match point against Magdalena Fret. Looks like she's going to make it through to round 3. She awaits the winner of Priscilla Hon and Eva Jovic. More on that in part 3. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast, where we have a sensation of the day dilemma on our hands. Can I first go through with you what my proposals are for people that aren't in the running?
By all means, let's write a few off.
Ajla Tomljanovic lost in straight sets to Elena Gabriela Rusa, not in the running.
Yep, sorry, Ajla.
Storm Hunter, the lovely Storm Hunter, I'm afraid lost in straight sets to Haley Baptiste, not in the running.
No, doesn't sound... How many games did she get? Not enough.
Not enough.
Okay.
No. Gone. Storm Hunter gone.
Afraid so.
Tomo. The Australian Open is just too woke for Tomo. He lost in 4 sets to Nuno Borges. Out of the running.
Won a set.
I'm afraid in...
Clubhouse leader.
No, gone.
No, gone.
Have a nice flight home.
So, what we're left with, folks, is Priscilla Hon, who is unfortunately fighting back.
Oh, she has just lost her break.
And posing a real problem for us. She's lost the first set 6-1 to Eva Jovic. It is 2-1 Hon in the second set as we come to you. So we've got that, and we've got Talia Gibson having 3 match points against Diana Schneider.
Oh, I think, yeah, Talia Gibson, definitely. I was watching that earlier. She was good.
She was, but she did lose, and Priscilla Hon might still win. So our options are to give it to Talia Gibson and be prepared to eat humble pie and issue an apology to Priscilla Hon tomorrow. Defer Sensation of the Day till tomorrow and do two awards tomorrow, or just to give it to Priscilla Hon for being on the Rod Laver Arena.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay, so which of the other 2 options would we like?
I'd like to defer. I want to give 2 tomorrow because, we've got to give Priscilla the chance here.
Matt?
That means we need 2 sensations to win tomorrow.
No, because today's will be... The first one from tomorrow will either be Talia Gibson or Priscilla Hon.
Okay, so you are prepared to hand out Sensation of the Day for Gibson...
Yeah.
A day late.
She's currently got it.
It's like predictions points if they're rained off.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Defer until tomorrow.
I would say at the time of recording, she's got it.
Talia Gibson?
Yeah.
What a heartbreak. I mean, she might need it.
I would love for Hon to come back and grab it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, we need to defer, don't we?
Yeah, we definitely do, you're right.
Okay. Tune in tomorrow, folks.
They already know.
That's so true. Okay, I'm going to go through the order of play for tomorrow. And what I'm also going to do is, over the course of this order of play, you're going to guess which match I'm commentating on tomorrow from my facial expressions, okay?
This is a fun game.
I'm game, yeah.
I got the schedule through just before we started recording, and I thought, I know. Okay, Rod Laver Arena starts with Jessica Pegula against McCartney Kessler.
Yeah, you're not doing that match.
Second on the Rod Laver Arena tomorrow, and in the day session, which is interesting because we know Djokovic gets what he asks for here. Suspect that means he wants night session on Saturday when it's due to be incredibly hot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so he's got Francesco Maestrelli, the Italian qualifier, in the day session tomorrow. Night session on Laver is James Duckworth against Yannick Sinner. Go with God, James. And second up, we have Elena Rybakina against Varvara Gracheva. Over on the second court, we start with an all-Italian affair between Lorenzo Musetti and Lorenzo Sonego. Second up, Katerina Siniakova against Amanda Anisimova. Feeling confident about that, Matt?
I am, yes.
Yeah, as you should be. Night session, Naomi Osaka against Sorana Cistella. And finally, Jaume Munar and Casper Ruud. Didn't they play last year?
They did. First round,
wasn't
I believe.
It fun?
Yes, we all went out to Rod Laver Arena, and then it decidedly got unfun.
Yeah,
but before then, it had been great.
We went in just in the wrong moment.
But it was in hindsight, it was a sign of the new Munar.
Yeah, it was. John Cain Arena tomorrow, Ashlyn Kruger against Madison Keys. Second up is Dane Sweeney. He was on Channel 9 build-up this morning, and I quite like Dane Sweeney. He speaks really well.
Yeah.
I think he's
a nice chap, isn't he?
Do you think he's going to lose? Sorry, TJ, who spent a lot of time bigging up his chances.
Who's he playing?
Ben Shelton.
Oh, yeah. He's going to lose. I mean, probably, isn't he? And because Shelton always does the business at these
But he was
slams.
talking about how, that first round prize money is already going to change his life and hopefully his career. Good on him.
That's good.
Night session on John Cain is Marie Buzkova taking on Iga Swiatek, and finally Vit Capriva against Taylor Fritz. Kia Arena tomorrow, Rinky Hijikata against Valentin Vachereau.
Very David coded.
I nearly went for that in the predictions, and then I backed out.
For Rinky?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I got burned by predicting Vachereau to lose.
I know.
Yesterday.
I don't think there's enough sample size either way with Vachereau.
He's lost in the doubles. He was playing with Rinderknecht, which was fun, but only very briefly. They got a tough draw and they lost today. Noskova against Taylor Preston on the Kia Arena tomorrow, so a contender there for sensation of the day. Is going to be tough against Noskova, though. I think she's an underrated threat. We have Arthur Gea. What did we decide on?
Gea.
Thank you for your service. Arthur Gea aiming to end the Stan Wawrinka fun. That is third on Kia tomorrow. And then we have big sensation situation finally on Kia. We have some doubles. It's Kyrgios and Kokkinakis against Kubler and Polmans. That is 4 Australian wildcards all on the same court.
Is there a point that we end up giving doubles teams sensation of the day when there's no singles left?
Yeah, that point's probably coming quite soon because we've ruled Alex de Minaur ineligible. So, yeah,
too good.
I think so.
For sensation of the day.
1573 Arena tomorrow. You've got Paolo Badosa, you've got Hubert Hurkacz against Ethan Quinn. We've got Elisa Mertens against Moyuka Uchijima, and we have Denis Shapovalov against Marin Cilic.
I nearly went for this in the predictions as well, but then I didn't know who to go for.
ANZ Arena tomorrow.
Oh, I know
folks.
what you're commentating on.
Starts with Karen Khachanov against Nishesh Basavaredi. A nice little appetiser.
I've never seen you as excited about Karen Khachanov. Oh, you're not talking about him.
No, that's the appetiser before Madison Inglis, the potential sensation, against Laura Siegmund.
So that's what you commentating
That's the one,
on.
isn't it?
It's the one.
And that's what I've gone for in the predictions.
Who have you predicted?
Find out in the newsletter.
I think you'll have fun.
Do you? It'll be a vibe.
It'll be a vibe.
It'll be
Yeah,
perfect.
and really, vibe is what I want above all else.
There will be lots of moments where you're annoyed,
Yep.
As
I mean,
will
that's
thousands of other people be.
and you'll get all the flashbacks to the Siegmund commentaries you were doing last year when you did about 5 in a month. But I think it'll be quite fun, that one.
Siegmund's Catherine's guilty pleasure, really.
She's so complicated for me, though, because there's so much that I like, but it's all cancelled out by the faff. Mahatch against Tsitsipas is third on ANZ Arena tomorrow. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And Bartenkova, who took out Daria Kasatkina last night after we finished recording. I mean, look, she's a good player, Bartenkova, but that's a tough pill to swallow for Kasatkina here, playing a home slam for the first time. But Bartenkova against Belinda Bencic, that could be a late one on ANZ tomorrow. You've got Baez against Darderi. Ostapenko is on court 6 tomorrow, the bar court. Someone's having fun with that. Janice Chen against Karolina Pliskova, David, court 7. And that's where you'll also find Bertik van der Zandschulp against Jerry Shang.
Okay. He'll have his orange-clad fans with him.
I might go in disguise.
He's a hit.
But I won't, because it'll clash with Laura Siegmund. Fruhvirtova against Valentova, last on court 7. That is all happening tomorrow. Peyton Stearns against Marchenko, Anna Kalinskaya. Wu Yibing, he's in your fantasy team, Matt, isn't he?
He sure is.
He's
Who's
got
he playing?
Elliot Spitzeri. I'm calling that a good draw.
Spitzeri is the
Spitzeri.
chap who
He
beat
beat
Fonseca.
yeah.
So he's had a good Australian Open so far.
Okay, that is all tomorrow. I'm sure you'll be with me, whatever time of the night it is for you, to watch Laura Siegmund against Madison Inglis. I'm talking to the listener there, not to you. I absolutely don't expect you to put yourself through Inglis against Siegmund.
I'll be there.
Thank you, David.
I'll be watching Anissa over and wishing you luck.
Do you know who will be with me? Gus. Always with us. Always staring into my soul. Bodie, my mascot, will be with me. Unless Bodie... Do you know what, Bodie? If you don't fancy Laura Siegmund, I give you a pass.
Dogs are loyal, though, aren't they?
They are. They are. Maisie, Roger, hello to you. Hello to our executive producers and all-around top folks, Greg, Chris and Jeff. Matt, should we have some shout-outs?
We have Tristan Amy from Pennsylvania.
Hello, Tristan.
Right, Tristan.
We know Tristan. Tristan says, surprisingly, there are 2 I'm aware of.
Well,
both are spelled the same as myself. Tristan Schulhate, naturally, and Tristan Boyer.
Yes, who I saw in the 1 Point Slam qualifiers.
How did he get on?
He, I think, came through the 2 qualifying rounds that I saw, but then lost out in the further qualifying session the following morning. He certainly didn't make the final, did he?
No.
But I learned what he looked like, which is, could be handy at some point in the future. But thank you, Tristan, for allowing us to think about Tristan Schulhate and to say that name. What a treat.
We've also got Marianne Brooks.
Hello, Marianne.
Hi, Marianne.
From Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
Makes me think of the film Splash, Cape Cod.
Yeah.
And Marianne says, thanks to your heartfelt tennis relived on Bud Collins, I learned of tennis player Marianne, same church, different pew, Marianne says, Marianne Eisel, who was defeated by 16-year-old Chris Evert at the 1971 US Open.
Well, that's wonderful.
Oh.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm very grateful for that because I was mentally struggling to think of a Marianne, so that's wonderful. Thank you.
And finally, we have Pamela Hood.
Hello, Pamela.
Hi, Pamela.
From near Glasgow.
Right.
And Pamela says, I came to Shoreditch for the live show last
Pamela.
year and loved every minute.
What a legend.
Like Pamela Howard-Shriver, who came to visit us in the media workroom earlier and made our days. And no, I've driven myself down a cul-de-sac there. Hood like the traitors? I can't stop thinking about the traitors.
We'll be watching it soon.
There was a doubles player from Argentina called Mariana Hood. So there you go. I've almost gotten a Marianne and I've got a Hood.
He's pulled it out of the bag.
Huge. That
Do you want to Google it to make sure it's real?
Unbelievable.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Matt, if you could Google long enough for Eva Jovic to get over the finish line, she's now a break up in the second set, then we could just get sensation of the day out of the way. But no.
It's looking good for Gibson.
It is looking good for Gibson, but it would be a hollow victory if
It would. I would love to give it to a winner.
Yeah, well,
They need to pull their finger out then, didn't they?
Come on, Priscilla.
does look like Francis Tiafoe is going to win after dropping that third set as well. So I feel like nothing we've said is going to go horribly out of date, and we are safe to get this show off the road. Our Australian Open Day 4 tennis podcast will be back with Day 5 tomorrow. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Thank you for listening. We'll speak to you tomorrow.